Welcome to the Radical Lifestyle Podcast, brought to you by Generation to Generation, where you will be inspired by the past, equipped for the present, and prepared for the future as we engage in conversations with people from around the world. Hello, so today you have Andrew and Daphne from Generation to Generation and our friend Clarice Ziller. Clarice, for people that don't know who you are, can you just say a bit about where you're from and what you do?
Hi, it's so good to be here. I'm so honored to be part of this project. I'm Clarice from Brazil. I live in Brasilia, the capital. I'm a children's pastor, and also I currently work at the Human Rights Ministry in Brazil, in the cabinet, National Cabinet for Children and Teenagers. So I've been involved with humanitarian and preaching the gospel to children since I was one. And I hope we can share some good stuff today and let you know a little bit about Brazil, what's going on here, and how does this all fit in the bigger plan of God.
Great. So Clarice, can you just catch us up to speed at the minute in the work you do? Can you tell us how COVID has affected the next generation, has affected people? What do you see happening?
Well, we see a lot of problems in the future, because the reality here in Brazil and pretty much all the not only the country of Brazil, but the whole Latin America has it has pretty much the same situation. Here in Brazil, it's not official, but numbers are like 1 in every 4 children have been or will be or continue to be sexually abused throughout his infancy, childhood, and teenage years. And more than 80% of this abuse happens at home by people who are close to these children. So what we pretty much have right now is that children are locked down with their aggressors. So we as a ministry and me as a person, we are very worried about this. I can't stop thinking about what are we going to face when doors are finally open and these children can come out. What are we going to see in schools, in churches, in the streets? How will these children be there when they can come out? And because most of the reports we get from child abuse come from schools. So if you look at, we have a number here, like 9/11. We have a 9/11 to report all kind of human rights violations in Brazil. And all kinds of violations have gone up during the pandemic. But child abuse in the reports, the number of reports has decreased. And that shows us not that the abuse is not happening, but the children do not have anyone to report for them, because they are inside their houses, their homes, with the abusers. So it's an awful situation. It's something that I cannot even begin to imagine the long-term effects of this. And we are very worried about this. We just had this last week, I think it was last Sunday, the story came up to the media of a 10-year-old girl. She was pregnant and the abuser was her uncle. And she had been suffering abuse from him since she was 6. And she told her aunt that she was pregnant, and the aunt didn't even know that she knew what being pregnant meant, and took her to the hospital. And I don't know how far was the pregnancy. And then instead of focusing on the girl and the fact that she has been raped for her uncle, the whole country started battling about her having or not having an abortion. People just forgot that that child has been through 4 years of abuse, and that she had been locked down with her uncle who raped her again and got this girl pregnant. And then my boss went down to the city, the county. It's a very small city, it's a very small town. And there are more than 30 reports of similar cases. We are talking about a city that has like less than 100,000 people living there, maybe. Now, if it's more than 100,000, and we are talking about 30 girls inside their homes being abused. And that just drives me crazy to think, how are the children doing? How are they hanging in there? I pray all the time, because that's all I can do right now. And I'm asking God for strategies and for ideas and how can we help? How can we prepare to receive these kids in schools? How can we receive them, especially at church? Church is now more relevant than ever before, because we need to heal these children. We need to be there, to be prepared, to be the role models, the father figure, the mother figure. We have to prepare ourselves to rescue these children from this big mess we are making right now.
It's like, usually when we're in conversations on podcasts, we're jumping in and making conversations, but this almost leaves you speechless. I mean, I almost don't know what to say.
Yeah, I mean,
no words.
Yeah, people
No words.
see this situation the world's going through right now, and they all just say, stay at home, just do what you're meant to do, stay at home, everything will work out. But it's not that simple for lots of people. For instance,
Not
this
that
girl
simple.
that we're talking about here, for her to stay at home to protect everyone else is to put herself in harm's way. So, you know, to make these blanket statements of stay at home during this time, it sounds good, but in reality, it's way more complicated than that.
Yes, we are going to lose a whole lot more children from the lockdown than from COVID. They are not even risk group. So for me personally, I am enjoying having my children home. It's good for me. I have lots of space. We are a well-functioning family, but that's not the reality of the massive amount of Brazilian people. People that do not even have sanitation in the streets. People that live like 10, 11 people in a chef made of whatever they found in the street, and has one room that serves as a bedroom, as a kitchen, as bathroom. That's the reality of most of the country. I am really privileged. So it's very easy for me to stay home. And I do stay home. I do. It's okay. But I can't stop thinking that for a lot of people, staying home is the worst thing that could happen to them.
So, I mean, I'm the sort of person that wants to fix things. I mean, you've got a problem, you talk to me, I'll be coming up with 6 ways maybe we can fix this thing. Not always healthy to be a fixer. I mean, the answer isn't always to fix people's problems, but that's what's in me. I'll be straight on it. And I'm sitting here going, I wouldn't even begin to think how.
I think for people listening, if you're from England or America or somewhere like that, there are certain structures that are in place to help combat things like child abuse and in various levels. And it's far from perfect. And we see in the news things like this come up a lot where something slipped through the cracks. But in Brazil, it's nowhere near those kind of standards. So it was already hard, a far
Yes.
harder fight in Brazil to deal with this than maybe a lot of people realize. But then you add on top of it this situation. I mean, in Brazil, it's must feel like such an impossible task to be able to handle this kind
I
of
mean,
situation.
I would like to just say before we let ourselves totally off the hook that I'm sure child abuse has increased here. Domestic violence have been shut up with their perpetrators. So it will.
No, I'm not saying it's perfect. That's what I'm saying. It's still far from perfect, but we just we're a bit more developed than way more developed than in Brazil.
And there is one other thing. How many people live in your country? How many? What's the population in UK?
I think it's around 70 million.
70 million. We have 54 million children.
Wow.
And 26 million of them live under the line of poverty. So it's something that's off the charts there. And I'm very thankful that right now we have a human rights minister, which is Damaris, that has a heart for children. And there was a powerful moment a month ago, maybe. Yes, a month ago. When we have a children and teenager statute. It's like a whole frame of public policies for children and teenagers here in Brazil. And it was this policy 30th anniversary. And it's a real good one. What we have in Brazil is a matter of implementing what's already written. It's there already, just doesn't work. And in the ceremony of this 30th anniversary, the minister talked about how good the law is and how perfectly written it is. And then she said, but what I have to say today to Brazilian children is I'm sorry. I'm sorry that this is not a reality for you. And my commitment is to make this become a reality. So I'm really thankful that we have a woman like her in a position where she can make a difference. And I joined this ministry 3 months ago, and I've been working hard with her. We are working on a project to embrace the children when they go back to school with something that's going to involve the teachers, because they need support also in children. And we are training, equipping. We have this figure here, which is I don't even have a translation word for that, but it's a person that is there just to receive reports of abuse and maltreatment, and this person will put the machine to movement. Okay, so this kid here is being abused. Who do I need to talk to? Where does she need to go? Does she need a hospital, a police, whatever? So we have this key person here that will make everything happen for that child. And I'm working right now on equipping this person. How can what are the signs of abuse? What to do? What the kid needs? Who should be involved? How to have hearings with the child without hurting them even more than they have been. So my section inside the ministry is working on equipping people to work with children. So again, I'm so thankful for having her in this team right now at the Human Rights Ministry, because children are surely humans and they need this.
Yeah.
So I see God's plan in this.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful, but it's very painful to think what are they going through right now.
Yeah, it's really good to hear about her, and people may have heard a previous podcast we did with Guilherme Shelby, and again, someone else who's on the front lines fighting this as well, and then of course you doing it. So it's encouraging to hear people like you out there trying to do something in what feels like the Wild West, I'm sure, but we need people like you out there.
You've got a collision course coming, almost, in that you're opening up schools, so the children haven't had education, so the teachers are going to be wanting to catch up on education, but traumatized children can't learn. I mean,
no,
we
know that
to learn. So you've got another collision about to take place, I would think, as they return to schools. It's a safe place, but they're going for one reason, that they can't do it.
Yeah, we are what we foresee is that it's gonna take at least 6 months to make them ready to learn again.
Yeah.
To work with them so they will be able to learn anything. They will feel comfortable again, they will feel safe again, and it's gonna take a lot of work.
So let me ask you, how is this for you? How are you handling this? I mean, I know you well enough to know that this is touching some of the most tender places of your heart, and working in this. So how are you in the middle of all this? I can't even begin to think.
It's like God has been protecting my heart. Because I'm telling you, I was talking to my husband the other day. I'm not afraid of COVID. One, because it's like 1 out of 10 people that get it really get bad at it and die from it. And I believe that my days were written and determined by God. So I'm not going 1 day before I have to go, and I'm not staying 1 day later than I'm supposed to stay. So I do not fear for my life. It's not that. It's not heavy on me, like, oh, I'm going to lose my children. I'm going to lose. No, we are all in God's hand. God's got this. But when I think that maybe here in my street, there might, because we think about poverty and poor children suffering, but that's not the reality. We have all social classes, children in all social classes suffering, being abused right now. So when I think that maybe here in my street we might have kids going through this, and that I cannot do anything right now but pray and and try to be there, and it's just too hard. It's just too hard. If I let myself into it, if I think about it too much, it's unbearable. It's an unbearable feeling.
Yeah. And this whole situation, I mean, you've got all these children with numbers that you can hardly take on board. It surely isn't as simple as, okay, here's this child, we need to remove them, or we need to work with the family. Well, we need to remove the abuser, not remove them, remove the abuser.
Yes.
And we need to work with the family, and we need to set up family counselling, and we need social workers coming in. I mean, the whole system that would be, that surely can't be when you've got numbers like that. It is out of control.
This is like a tsunami.
Yeah.
What people may be thinking, like the church could be an answer to the situation, but can you just, what's child abuse like within the church in Brazil?
For me, the problem with the church in Brazil is that the church does not admit that sexual violence is real and that it happens to children who are actually in the church. If you think that a quarter of the children population in Brazil has been or is going through abuse, and if you think that half of our population claims to be Christians, how in the world are these kids not in church? They have to be at church. They are there. And the church will not say, yes, this is our problem. Yes, we have this situation. We have to face this. Church keeps going around it. Does not look violence in the eye. Does not say that I am the solution for this. I'm going to work with this family. I'm going to work with these children. I don't see churches doing this. Are not taking the problem seriously. You know, some of them will even work on some kind of child care or children's ministry, but I don't see it being taken as seriously as it must be, has to be. I see the church as the answer, but it's not awakened for that yet.
There needs to be an awakening. A story that Guilherme shared with us that illustrates your point. He was speaking at a conference with, I think it was like 10,000 pastors. And he said to them, I would love to come and speak in your church about child abuse prevention and work with you to fight this. And he said, I will pay for my flights, I'll pay for the hotel, I'll pay for everything, no cost to the church. Here are my contact details, just invite me. And no one. I think when he said no one contacted him.
I know.
Maybe one, but I'm sure he said none. But the point is, like you said, they aren't taking this seriously, or they're turning a blind eye to it. And so there needs to be an awakening in the church.
Yes.
Pastors taking this seriously, and otherwise, to say the church is the answer, which we believe, but in order for it to be the answer for this situation, they have to really take it on board.
Of course, this isn't a child problem. I mean,
a society problem.
Yeah, it's a society problem. It's an adult. The adults are the ones with the problem, not the children. I mean, the children have the resulting problem, but to focus on children's ministry or focus on those areas is really playing catch up. It's not dealing with the issues. It's an adult problem.
Right.
Yeah.
So the other thing I was thinking when we were talking about trauma was, one of the elements to healing is you have to remove the abuser. I mean, ideally you remove the abuser, not remove the child. But while the child and the abuser are together, healing is almost impossible to take place. I'm trying to sit in your situation, and I'm feeling overwhelmed.
Trying to figure out what you would do.
What on earth? How would you bring healing to a child when you're sending them back and it's going to carry on? To me, sitting here listening to you, it's just so overwhelming. I can't get my head around it. So I really honor and respect you for choosing to sit in that place, choosing to be in that place, and choosing to press in regardless to find an answer. And thank God, literally, for somebody now who you can stand behind, who's in the government, who's forming policy, and you can run in that stream. I mean, that is a hope.
There is a hope. I really see God's hand in this, because only Him.
So can you give us a bit of a clue? You're working with schools, etc. Give us one or two things you will be telling the schools. Sorry,
it was...
Say you're working you're going to be working with the schools to receive these children back and having a key worker there. Can you tell us one or two things that you will be saying to this person in order to
the school,
to the key worker to receive these children? What are some of the things you'll be saying to them?
Well, first of all, we need to work with them, check how they are, and we need to first heal the workers, the teachers, because not only child abuse, but domestic violence is something really big in Brazil. So aside from children being abused, we are going to have a lot of teachers that have been through situations of domestic violence. So we need to work with them first. Some kind of therapy, and we are thinking about music, art, things like that. We need to work with them first, make them feel safe, and most of all, create a support network around these teachers, so they know who can they contact, who can they reach out to when they feel the need. We're going to have a lot of psychological support. As a ministry, a government authority, we are not going to be there as a church. I cannot bring spiritual or no. If it's a spiritual, it's just me because I carry the spirit. But I cannot have something that is religious. I cannot bring something that will look like church. I cannot do that. But we can think of strategies that come from the heart of God, that will touch hearts, that will touch the minds of these people. We need to heal them. And for that, we are, I don't even know if I can be talking about it, but I think I can. We're going to have a group of psychiatrists that are very well chosen to work with these adults before they go into the children. And then we are thinking a lot of playing, not only kids, but adults involved in games and in competitions and things like that, to be able to connect to other people again, to be able to feel safe outside again. So we are hoping to play a lot.
And is this just in Brasilia or is it nationwide?
It's nationwide.
Nationwide.
So let's take it out of Brazil in a minute. People are listening to this in many nations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every nation will be experiencing some of this. It may not be to the extent, but
Yes.
in every nation, child abuse will have increased behind these locked doors.
Yeah.
So what would you say to people who are listening from any nation at all? And what would you say to the people who are listening?
I would say that we need to think about things that Christians tend to not pay much attention to, like breathing, meditating, because this has taken such a mystical it has become something that Christians do not do because they do not want to connect with transcendental religions and things like that. But the thing is, we need to learn how to meditate in God, and we need to breathe and understand how wonderfully made we are, how perfect was the work of God in us. And we need to go back to Eden. That's what I say, to simple things, to basic things. Understand that God has a plan, and He didn't lose control over us. But talking about practical things, I would encourage people to play, to go out in the streets and run, ride bikes, and just enjoy outside games with your children, play soccer, play football, play. Bring back the laughter, bring back the sense of lightness, of not being worried about disease or anything like that. Just live, breathe, play, pray, meditate, things that will connect you with God, with each other, with your community. We need to bring back this social, because this is essential for us. It's our safety net. It's to be able to reach out to your neighbor and your family. I think you've been to my mom's house with me for lunch on Saturdays. That is not happening. For 6 months, I have been able to gather with my family. I used to do that twice a week. 6 months, and we are not living that anymore. So we need to reconnect.
Well, I mean, I think that leaves everybody listening with so much to think about, so much to take on board. And bottom line, how the heart of Jesus must be grieved. How his heart must be broken. I mean, in Matthew 18, it says he's not willing that one of these little ones, not one little one should perish, and they are perishing. And he sees every single one of them. And I think we need to see every single one of them and be his hands and feet. And I want to thank you, Clarice, for sitting in that pain, sitting in that dark place, and for being his hands and feet in that place. And we honor you. We honor you for that. And we love you. We're grateful for you.
Before we go, I've just seen you got a new book.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Say a bit about the book. Tell people where they can find what you're doing, if you have websites, things like that. If you could just give that information.
Is the book's in Portuguese, right?
Yes, I have this hot site with clariceziller.com.br, and you can buy it from there. And the book is about children's ministry, but not about curriculum, activities, not like that, but how God shaped my heart and how God can shape everyone's heart to work with children, to listen to them. So in my book, I'm talking about what does it take to be a children minister, how to reach the children for God, how to reach the next generation. You were in the book because, yes, getting to know generation to generation.
By the way, for people listening, we didn't know that. That's not why I asked you to share about.
I didn't say that before. I'm just having the opportunity. So I'm thanking you right here, right now, for changing a lot of things in my ministry, and actually maybe not changing, but reinforcing by giving me confirmation of many things that I thought that I wanted to do, and I didn't find any support for that. And then when I got to know your work and translate, it was like I was translating, but I was being ministered at the same time. So it was amazing experience, and it shaped my ministry in many ways. So I share that in the book, and I share about children learning how to be intercessors, intercessory prayer. I talk about children meditating. I talk about children, about families, how families can be involved in this. So I really think it's not because I wrote it, but because I know that God chose me to do that, and he put a lot of things in my heart, and I feel that I just need to share. Because if we can teach the next we build the floor for the next generation. So I'm trying to build it real high so the next generation of ministers can start way ahead of me and go way farther, so we can somehow transform this nation and transform the church and be a church that is really relevant, that transforms and restores and changes everything, because Jesus is in there. So that's my book.
I would say to people as we close out, here's your challenge. The next generation are going to change the nations. They are going to.
Yeah.
But to us how they're going
How?
to.
Yeah. Thank you, Clarice. We appreciate you.
Thank
Please
you.
pass our love on to the rest of the family, and hopefully we'll get to see you again soon.
Yes, please. I hope so too. It was an honor to be here. I'm really glad we had this time, and I hope this is a blessing for whoever listens to it. Thank you so very much for the opportunity. Love you guys. Love you very much.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If it inspired you, please rate us and subscribe on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or another podcast platform.